in a traditional understanding, approaches in human rights could be classified into three. They are liberal, socialist and third world. Liberal approach. Liberal approach of HR developed in Europe. Human freedom was the central focus of the liberal perspective. The natural and inalienable rights of man were articulated and expressed in the writings of philosophers from the 16th century onwards. John Locke, Adam Smith, J.S. Mill, Voltaire, Diderot, Rousseau, Goethe, Kant, Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Paine were the chief exponents of the liberal perspective. The key features of the liberal approach were developed from the collapse of feudalism in Europe and the rise of capitalism. A firm belief in popular sovereignty, a constitutional form of government, and the right to representation was declared as the fundamental features of the liberal approach. From the 18th century onwards, liberal ideas developed as a political force in Europe. Such a movement claimed the right to life, liberty and property, the right to religion and religious toleration, the right to freedom of speech and expression, etc. Liberal ideas were expressed in a series of bills and charters. The most important among them are the Magna Carta, 1215, the Petition of Rights, 1627, the Bill of Rights, 1688. The American Revolution declared that all men are equal and they have certain inalienable rights such as life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness. French and American Revolution laid the foundations tones of liberal human rights. Even though the liberal human rights perspective proclaimed individual liberty, right to property and freedom of trade, it has invited a wide range of criticism. First and foremost, it gives too much importance to the right to property, which blatantly claimed slave ownership as a legal right. Liberal perspective failed to evade discrimination of race, color, sex and creed. Socialist approach. Socialist or Marxist approach in human rights deeply challenge the liberal understanding of human rights. Liberal understanding of justice and freedom widely criticized under the Marxist school of thought. According to the Marxist view, justice is a subjunctive notion. The Marxist mainly concerned about the social, economic and political dimensions of justice. The socialists mainly focused on the aspects of economic security and social equality. In the absence of economic security and social equality, the concept of freedom might be a farce assumption. Political freedom could never be genuine without economic freedom. The socialist approach made a shift from liberty to equality. In socialist understanding, liberty is the endpoint, equality is the starting point to a fully actualized regime of human rights. Therefore, they have pleaded for core economic rights such as the right to health, right to education and the right to a decent and secure social existence. This dimension of human rights is a shift from individual rights to collective rights. In the liberal view, human rights have a subjective dimension. In the socialist view, human rights have an objective dimension. It proposed the state must have to play an active role in the establishment of human rights. According to Marxist understanding, the roots of social exploitation lie in the economic structure of the society. The capitalist class uses political institutions to promote their freedom. At the same time, the working class suffer triple oppression. They are economic exploitation, political alienation and spiritual deprivation. In the Marxian view, a revolutionary elimination of capitalist exploitation is the only way to establish a just society based upon the principles of human rights. The Marxian approach of human rights does not deny the progressive nature of liberal human rights. The criticism presented by Marxist against liberal human rights that it promotes the interest of the ruling class and paved way to protect the class exploitation. Third World Approach. The Third World approach of human rights pressing for the elimination of poverty and inequalities. Promotion of social justice is the primary imperative of Third World human rights approach. In this view, right to development incorporated into the framework of the human rights approaches. Right to development placed as a precondition for the protection and promotion of human rights. The concept of the right to development evolved from the decolonization of the Third World countries in the 1960s. It is a potential safeguard from the old colonial masters' appropriation of resources. In 1970s the United Nations declared new international economic order which adopted the Charter on the Economic Rights and Duties of the States. In 1979 UN adopted a Resolution 32/130 which adopted hierarchical priority to the human rights. During this decade the UN declared that right to development as the foundation of human rights. These rights manifested that right to natural resources as a permanent right of the people. The primary demand of the Third World perspective of human rights is the decolonization of the colonized. As per the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the freedom from fear and want is essential for the actualization of human rights. In this regard, the sovereignty of the nations, as well as the economic progression of the communities, are a precondition for the ensuring of human rights. The Third World approach of human rights recognizes the indivisible and interdependent character of civil, political, economic and cultural rights. UN Resolution 32/130 said that the full realization of civil and political rights without the enjoyment of economic, social and cultural rights is impossible. They have added that the achievement of lasting progress in the implementation of human rights is dependent upon sound and effective national and international policies of economic and social development. All human rights and fundamental freedoms of the people are inalienable. However, human rights questions can be addressed globally. It shall recognize the full dignity of the human person and the well-being of the society.